the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, he has basically announced the biggest expansion of the 20-mile-an-hour zone to date, right? And this pricked my eyes and ears up because do not, if you're sitting there and you're not in London, don't roll your eyes and go, oh, a London topic. Because this is not just a London kind of, let's make everyone drive very slowly indeed. Because I have to say, these 20-mile-an-hour zones seem to be popping up in quite, I don't know if I've got a map, actually. If I have got a map to show you, then I'll try and get that up on the screen. There you go. Get your glasses on, everyone, because if you can see that, you deserve a medal. But basically, the green areas, the dark, I mean, you're going to say it's all green, but you know what I mean. The darker green areas on that map, that is the places in the country that people are looking at rolling out or have rolled out 20-mile-an-hour zones. Michael, I'll start with you on this. Some people saying it's basically a war on motorists, other people saying it's fantastic. Where are you on it?
I'm broadly in favour of it. I mean, presumably we're talking about 20-mile-an-hour zones in urban areas, not the countryside. You get used to it after a while. The one thing I don't get used to is it's not always clear whether you're in a 20 or a 30, and I'm surprised I haven't been done for speeding in a 20 zone yet. But more clarity, yeah, more zones. It will help reduce accident, help reduce emissions. Maybe persuade a few more people to go onto public transport. Well,
apparently in 2018, 10% of all road traffic accidents in the UK occurred within these 20-mile-an-hour zones, so they're not reducing.
Well, it depends what the figure was before, doesn't it?
Well, but to quote you, if you've got 20 mile an hour, and I don't mean to be, I'm not being flippant, but there are electric scooters that can go faster than that. There are electric bikes that can go faster than that. There's some kids on, I don't know what, that can go faster than that. So for me, this feels like such a stupid measure because you're trying to disproportionately restrict motorists.
Well, electric bikes and scooters... Well, electric scooters are illegal nearly everywhere.
But everyone rides them and the police don't do anything.
I know,
about them.
They do ride them on the pavements as well, and ideally we'd crack down on that, but the police have got other things to do. The thing about accidents, as you well know, is whether the accidents that occur in the 20-mile-an-hour zone, how serious they are. Now, an accident at 20 miles an hour is going to be less serious on the whole than one at 30 miles an hour. Are
you in favour of 20s?
No, Sadiq Khan is a highway robber. He's the politician of all who's waged a war on motorists because he knows they're a cash cow that he can milk dry. His figures on introducing ULEZ, whether it saved 4,000 lives a year, and FOI, Freedom of Information, showed actually one Londoner has died in 20 years with road pollution, vehicle pollution, on their death certificate. So he fudged it on that. There was a 3% decline in nitrogen oxide, which couldn't even be pinned onto ULEZ. It's just cleaner burning cars. And now he's saying this is about eliminating deaths and serious injury on the transport network when an RAC report shows that 20-mile-an-hour limits have minimal impact on safety. They are basically a fig leaf for taxation. It's as simple as that. It's a way of taking money out of people's pockets because motorists are an easy target. They can be tracked, they can be traced, they can be fined. You get it through the letterbox, and this is just another example of a war on motorists to raise taxation. It's dressed as salvation, it's taxation. And the bad ideas start in London.
You like these sound bites, don't you? Dressed as taxation. What was it? Dressed as salvation.
Lots of preparation.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. And you're dead right to say, oh, it's just London. No, the bad ideas start in London and they go nationwide because local authorities, like clean air zones, and out in Norwich, Newcastle, Birmingham, Cambridge, Oxford, Milton Keynes, they're going to go nationwide because it's a way of raising money for local authorities bankrupted after COVID. Motorists are there to be fleeced.
Yeah, and you mentioned cyclists, by the way, which I do cycle, so I'm not just having a go at cyclists, but I think it's wrong that you can just get on cycles and not have any identification markers, so you can go along, you can scrape alongside cars and scratch stuff, you can cause accidents and all the rest of it, and no one has a clue who you are. You don't have your insurance, so actually if you do cause damage, no one can come after you for anything, but I slightly digress. The point about the councils going bankrupt, loads of them are either bankrupt or heading that way. Do you think now what's happening is lazy councillors who are really bad at their own job, they can't manage their own finances, are now sitting there thinking, how can I get myself out of this hole? Right, I know, these motorists. Because the lower that you create speed limits, the more likely you are that people are going to inadvertently often speed. And then you're going to get your ka-ching moment.
I accept there is likely to be a strong element of that, and that's because this government has withdrawn grants from local councils at an extraordinary rate over the last 13 years, and many of them, Conservative and Labour, are struggling through their finances. It's just not. If the incompetence is anywhere, it's in central government.
Hang on, no, because I can't have that, I'm afraid. I'm not having that. Who was it the other day? Was it Birmingham?
Yes.
Who have gone into bankruptcy.
That's right.
And the first thing they do is sit there crying, talking about £1 billion worth of cuts from central government over the course of a decade.
Well, it's happened to all councils. Woking went bust. That was a Conservative council. Thurrock went bust. That was a Conservative council. Northamptonshire went. I covered that story. That was a Conservative council. The idea that this is just Labour councils.
Michael, you're missing my point.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, yes, for example, Birmingham had lost £1 billion over a decade, but they simultaneously had cost themselves that amount of money and potentially more by not paying people in accordance to the law. So blaming central... Oh, it's not my fault that I really can't even manage my own books. It's his fault. It's those Tories' fault.
Surely, I'm sorry, and it's your job to be the presenter, not mine, but back on the issue of the 20-mile-an-hour limit, yes, there may be an element of fundraising, but... My view is that we've become obsessed with cars, families having 2 or 3 cars. Everybody seems to have a really big car these days.
What's wrong with that?
Well, because it uses more petrol, it emits more carbon, and it emits more rubber and all horrible things that get into our blood, get into everywhere.
We
have got to get away from being a car society. We've got to start walking more because that contributes to obesity. The reason why people are so fat these days is because they never get any exercise, they never walk anywhere. All in all, if we could reduce car use, then great.
Michael, that might work in metropolitan London where people like Sadiq Khan live, but it doesn't work in places like North Shropshire, Derbyshire, Yorkshire.
Well, I don't think anybody's proposing to introduce a 20-mile-an-hour limit in North Shropshire, are they?
But there's one in Birmingham, and they went bankrupt. And it gets worse because this week a report came out they're going to decrease the margin to 1 mile an hour above speed limit. So 21 miles an hour will get you nicked. It's ridiculous. That's a margin of error. That's a speedometer error. You know, and we are heading towards a situation where people are being taxed off the road, driving like foreign holidays, like gas boilers, will become the preserve of the rich. We're going back in time. We're hammering the poorest the hardest. They can't afford electric cars.
In a world where we're going to be frying in 50 years' time. The trouble is your complacency. It's so selfish. You're basically saying, let's all live out, a life of luxury. Yes, I do have a car.
So hang on a second. Let me just be absolutely clear. So you want everyone else...
We try and use it to a minimum.
Let me finish. So you want everyone else to get rid of their cars so that we don't fry, your words, in 10 years' time. But by your own admission...
No, I'm not saying everybody should get rid of their car.
So then you're a hypocrite.
No, I'm saying we should have fewer cars. Families don't need 2 or 3 cars.
Well, why don't you lead by example then? Get rid of your car. You've just said everyone can walk.
I do try and travel by train as much as I can.
But lead by example. Be the change that you want to be in the world.
Well, I agree with that. We all need to lead by
example.
example. This country needs to lead by example.
But we already lead by example.
I would stress that point.
Banning
to those of you who frequently appear in this studio who want to get rid of the net zero target, everybody should set an example. This country should set an example. We should take global warming seriously.
Tell China and India.
Otherwise, we are selfishly leaving the problem for our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren.
Why aren't you then being the change that you want to see in the world? Because I appreciate and respect what you're saying. Let's all make these changes. Start with yourself. You've just told me that everyone's fat and they're all not walking. Get rid of your car. Come on this show and say, right, guys, here I am. Do videos of yourself walking along, doing your star jumps. I am being the change that I want to be.
I mean, every time I come... When I first appeared on these programmes at GB News, your producers said, "Oh, would you like a car to pick you up and a car to take you back?"
Those days are gone.
I said, "No, I'll go on the Underground."
Those days are long
and that's
gone.
exactly what I do. And I walk to the Underground at either end, so that helps. Maybe I should get off a stop earlier. But, I'm not saying that that I am a great believer in setting an example. I'm also a bit of a hypocrite in some of this, but at least we should go in that direction. Why everybody has an enormous car these days,
well, they don't.
Compared with just 20 years ago, everybody's car was much smaller.
I've got an enormous car.
Why they need 2 cars, 3 cars?
I've got an enormous car.
My car's been taxed off the road.
In fact, we're a 2-car household, so I mean, you must take me. But just to be absolutely clear, I'm not getting rid of my car. No. If I want an enormous car, that's my business in a free society. And before anyone tells me...
No, it's not just your business. Everybody's business. If you're going to emit emit carbon, you're going to emit rubber particles on the road and all the horrible particles that come out and cause people respiratory diseases and so on.
Well,
that is society's problem, not just your problem.
Well, get rid of your car and I will be inspired by you.
Right, well...
And then I just might consider getting rid of my car. It's not going to happen.